Welcome back. For the next project, I have a couple of issues that I'm going to try to solve with this next project. And it has to do with recharging the Delta Pros in an extended outage. As you may or may not know, I have right here what we're looking at is there's a Ecoflow smart home panel, and then there's two Delta Pros. Each Delta Pro has one extra battery. That's about 14 kilowatt hours, and if we're not, that would last us at least 24 hours if we're not terribly careful. If we're careful, it would last longer, and if the sun was shining or it was not too thickly overcast, we would get a little bit of solar to add to that. But in the wintertime, we're not going to get enough solar to keep up with the house. So I have a small Honda generator, which is a gas generator, and I'm going to have another project, not this time, but probably in the future. I've got a future project where I'm going to try to convert it to run on propane, but that's another issue. But anyway, the issue is with the Delta Pros, and they're connected to the home through the infinity cables. I can't recharge them with AC unless I unplug them from the home, and these infinity cables are real butter to plug back in. They're really in there tight, and I don't want to have to do that. Besides that, if we're using the units to power the house, I don't want to take them offline for a couple hours to recharge them. So, okay, let me clarify the problem. So here I've got one of my Delta Pros. It's currently running the house. You can see the input from the extra battery. Oops, screen went blank. Bring it back up. And the output to the house. Okay. Then I've got over here, I've got the Delta Max, and it's turned on. It's all charged up, as you can see. And if I plug this into the AC input and I turn the AC on here, and nothing happens because this is connected. Now let me try something here. And this shouldn't work either, but I'll demonstrate it. So if I turn this Delta Pro off at the smart home panel, so now this Delta Pro is no longer charging the house, but it's not connected to the house, but it still isn't getting any input from the Delta Max. So that's the problem I want. Here's the problem that I'm solving. I want to charge this. I want to charge it while it's still connected, even if it's not running, connected to the smart home panel from an AC source, not solar panels, and not a cigarette plug, which is limited to about 100 watts. And that's what I'm solving. Oh, one more quick warning. Do not ever make a loop. In other words, don't charge this, try to charge this from the grid when it's powering the house. In other words, yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm trying to charge from either a standalone unit or a portable generator, which are not connected to the house. Don't ever make a loop. That's incredibly dangerous. I can use the DC charging. Now the issue is what I have to I can charge from is this is an older Delta Max and an extra battery, and this is 4 kilowatt hours. So if I was to drain these, it'd have enough power to recharge one of the Delta Pros, and its extra battery about 50%. So it would come out to about 1/4 of my home setup here. So, but the problem is, from the DC output on that is a cigarette lighter, and I'm limited to probably around 100 watts, which isn't very much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a switching mode power supply so that I can use the AC outlet here and the DC outlet here, and the solar input here can handle like 50 watts. I'm sorry, 150 volts. Okay, so here's my highly professional detailed drawing. So what I have here, this box, this is the Delta Max, and it's going to be coming with AC output to the SMPS, switching mode power supply, which we'll look at in a second. And the switching mode power supply will be putting out DC power, which will go to this two-way switch. And one side of the two-way switch will go output to a Delta Pro solar input. So it'll be DC out. And the other one will be DC in coming from the MC4 cable that comes from the solar panel. So basically then I can flip this two-way switch, and this Delta Pro can either receive power from the solar panel or the Delta Max, but not both, just one or the other. And this wire here will be set up on the switch so it'll be the same output no matter which way this switch is thrown. It'll have the same output cable, but it'll have two different inputs. So two inputs, one output. That's the plan. So, okay, so what did I get? Well, okay, first from the Delta, I'm going to use an extra AC power cord, which has the typical input that you use to charge any Ecoflow Delta product. And it's got the regular 3-prong output. And that's what I'm going to use to go out from the Delta Max. And I'm going to cut this off, and we'll rewire that onto, this is a switching mode power supply that I bought online, and it was one that was recommended to me by some guys on some of the Ecoflow Facebook groups. And it's got, on the back here, it's got the 3 cables for AC input, neutral, load, and ground. And then for DC output, it's actually got 3 grounds and 3 voltages, but I'm only going to be using one of the grounds and one of the voltages because I'm only going to have one output from this. And like I said, this is a 72, it takes 110 volts in. The DC output is 72 volts, 20 amps. And the Delta Pro can handle 150 volts, so about twice that, and about 15 amps. So it won't draw the full power load from this. So it should be okay. This is pretty good quality. It's got a couple of fans on the side. It's made in China. I bought it off Amazon. I can put a link here if somebody cares. I can put a link. They make this brand comes in like all different sizes. So the 72 volt is just what I have, but they have ones that are lower and ones that are higher. Okay, so then from this we need a DC output cable, and so for that I've got I have lots of extra solar panel cables that I had from when I was, setting up my solar panels. So I cut off a couple of long strips of that, and we'll strip this and hook that up. So that'll get me to the switch, which is this guy here, which is a two-way switch. And I'll relay, it's 0, 1, 2. So it's either completely off or it's one or the other. And then it's got the connectors. And I got, off the web, I've printed out, this is the page from the switching power supply ad. And then I've got the pages from the two-way switch with the information on which connectors are which for the different terminals. So hopefully that all makes sense. And then from that we'll run the cable in from the outside, which will be we'll have an MC4 cable coming in from the solar panel. I'll snip the ends off the MC4 cable and connect it here, and then I'll have an MC4 cable that'll go from, and I have one laying around here, yeah. So what I'm going to do is I'll take, this is like an extra XT, it's an XT60i cable, which hopefully Delta Pro will recognize as a solar input. And this is one that happens to have a cigarette lighter, but I'll snip the connector off because I'm not going to use a cigarette lighter output. And that'll go to the Delta Pro. And so that's that's the idea. Will it work? I'm not 100% sure, but if it does work, then I'll have options when there's an extended power outage. So, like for example, worst case, if we're in the Pacific Northwest, if the subduction zone off our coast rips all the way, it'll be like a magnitude 9. It'll be like a really serious earthquake, like the one that happened in Japan a few years ago. There'll be tsunamis over on the coast, but we won't have tsunamis here. But we'll probably have damage to all the roads. Bridges will be down. Power lines will probably be down. Trees will be down. I don't know. We could, and with the interstates could be closed, and we could be cut off. I would, possibly want to plan for maybe 2 weeks that we'd be cut off. And so I'm going to need a way to recharge. Gas stations are going to run out of gas like they did in Florida this year. It's going to be hard. People are going to be waiting in line to fill their gas cans. So if I have the ability to use on the Delta on the charger, if I have the ability to run the Honda on both gas and propane, then I've got a couple of propane tanks for the gas grill in the backyard anyway, and I have a couple of 5-gallon gas cans in the shed for the lawnmower anyway. So if I can use both of those, that would give me a pretty good length of time, and hopefully by the time I use all that up, I would have the ability to go get more, and we could stay charged up, even if we didn't have any solar energy. If this happened in the summertime and we were getting good solar, we can pretty much keep up with the solar panels. And also for the Delta Max, I do have a couple of portable solar panels that I could set up out in the yard in an emergency to get a little extra power. I could use those to charge the Delta Max. So anyway, that's the plan. And then maybe in the next video, we'll show you the progress that I made on it so far. Okay, welcome back. This is probably it. I decided that 3-way switch was going to be too complex for my poor little brain. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a couple of XT60. The problem, the connectors, and the problem I'm dealing with there is, I know on these Delta Pros, sometimes on the back here, where you plug in the XT60i cable, the socket inside can come loose and fall down inside. So I want to try to avoid plugging and unplugging that. So I'm going to get a couple of extensions, and then I can switch out here. I can plug and switch between the solar panels and the DC, and I can do it for both of my Delta Pros. So here's a demo of that. So I've got the switching power supply hooked up. It's plugged into an AC outlet on the Delta Max, and then it goes, the DC output from that goes to the Delta Pro. So if I turn on the AC outlet here, takes a second, the green light comes on there, and I hear a click on the Delta Pro, and it's starting to charge up, and it's taking in 1140 watts, and it's shifting 300 over to the extra battery. It's got one extra battery hooked up to this one, so it's got 86%. It says it'll charge up in 49 minutes at that rate from 86%. So let's take a look at the Delta Max now. And the Delta Max says it can be drained, it'll drain in 3 hours. It's outputting 1300 watts. And I don't hear any, the fan's kicked on the Delta Pro when it's charging, and they're noisy, but it's out in the garage, so I don't care. And I don't hear any fans on the Delta Max. So it's doing just fine. I don't know what the temperature of it is. Doesn't say on the front. I have to look in the app. So yeah, so that should work. So I'm using DC charging at 1100 or so watts instead of the 100 that you'd get from the The cigarette plug outlet on the Delta Max here is limited to 8 amps and 12 volts, so that's not very much. This is outputting about 70, what did I say, 72 volts, and the Delta Pro takes in a maximum of 15 amps. So whatever 17 times 15 is, 70 times 15 should be pretty close to 1100. So anyway, it works, yay. Now I'll just go ahead and I'll put in some extensions and get this, because I tried to hook up that three-way switch, and my skills aren't good enough to wire something like that, so I gave up. So I'm going to do this a little bit more manually, but I'm also not going to keep plugging and unplugging devices into the back. So anyway, that's it for now, and I'm happy it works, and talk to you later.